Hello, I'm Massat from the Beyond Wellness and founder of the Sacred Journey Institute. And today I have with me Irene Ruger, and she'll be joining us today to talk about her incredible journey with her experience with cancer. So I'm going to hand it over to Irene and maybe have her go back to the beginning when this started.
Good morning. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2008. I won't forget it because I received the notification about my biopsy on Halloween 2008, so great day for that. I have had a family history of cancer. My maternal grandmother died when my mom was 6 years old of cancer.
Was it breast cancer?
Actually, at that time they said female. They always just said female cancer. And I don't know whether it was because the girls were so young and they really didn't know or understand, or if it was actually like an ovarian cancer type thing, but they always said female cancer. My mom's memories were that she suffered greatly and she got to a point where she just refused any more treatment because she was in so much pain. I lost an aunt to breast cancer when she was very young. I had a cousin that was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was very young. My uncle died of, I believe it was pancreatic cancer. I'm not exactly sure about him, but it was like a constant within the family. Everybody was very much concerned about cancer because of the lineage and that it ran in the family. When I was 18, I had a man read my palm and tell me that I should be very careful with my left breast because he saw something that would be coming up for me. So I always had that particular fear. Earlier in the year of 2008, my mom was diagnosed with a phylloides tumor in her right breast. At that point, they told us that it was benign. But I think that got me very stirred up, if you will. I was feeling almost like I had to do something for her, and I didn't know quite what to do with her. I had been involved in using living essential oils for quite a few years prior to this. I had been to convention. I had heard many stories about oils actually having an effect on people, and that they had used oils to eliminate cancer without going through surgery, radiations, etc. There is a clinic in Guayquil, Ecuador that is run by the people from Young Living, and I could have chosen to go there. However, that would have meant getting up and leaving, and I didn't know if I was prepared for that. So after the diagnosis, I sat back and talked to my husband and told him that I didn't think that I wanted to go through the medical model. I asked him to come with me for the appointment with the surgeon because I know it's always good to have more than one person there. You don't necessarily hear everything they say because I was in fear mode, and I was sure that there were things that I was going to miss. But some of the things I wanted to know from her was like how long I would have for this to spread. Was this something that they were thinking, you know, within a month this was going to be a great big mass and it was going to be spread and I wasn't going to have a lot of time to deal with it? Just exactly what was my options.
And how far along the cancer was.
Right. And for me, sitting down and talking to her, it was actually in my right breast, not my left breast at that particular point in time. I had had 2 biopsies. The first biopsy was for a small tumor that was on the side. That biopsy went, I guess you could say, okay. It's very traumatic having a biopsy anyway. But that biopsy went okay, and then they wanted to check the deposits, the calcium deposits that were in the ducts. And when I went back for the second biopsy, that was a nightmare. I wound up with a hematoma. They couldn't get me to stop bleeding. When they took a second mammogram, I was bleeding all over my shoes. It was just incredible. There was so much fear, so much anger. I kept asking them, you know, why are you pushing these cells through my body? And their answer was, don't worry about that. That's not what we're doing. You don't understand how cancer works, etc. So I left there and I pretty much the surgeon knew that I wanted to be any place but in that office and dealing with it differently. I then, in turn, called my upline from the oil company and worked with them on protocols. So I started my protocols. And when we do a call, we do a conference call, because the person that I work with basically will give you information, but she's not writing anything down. So the stuff that she was giving me to use, it was protocols that she felt my body would need. She's a medical intuitive, and I've worked with her before. But you also have to have somebody else on the line with you for the same reason, so that you're both hearing and you don't make any mistake on what your protocol should be. So we did that. And in the process, she had said, you need to get her to a light worker. And at that point, I really didn't know what a light worker was. And my upline, Lynn, and I talked about it. And we had a very good friend, Lori Green.
Right. One of the students from the school.
One of the original
teachers,
students from the school. And Lori said, I'm coming into town, because she lives in Michigan. I'm coming into town. We'll get you an appointment. I'll bring you in to see Don, and I'll work with you that first day. So my first session here was because the people from the oil company felt that I also needed light work in order to go through this process and heal. So we came in, and Don and Lori worked on me for my first session, and I stayed the course. While this happened all within a short period of time. Within 2 weeks of the time that I had my diagnosis and my doctor's appointment, my surgeon did call me, and she was very concerned, because I had asked the questions, how long was this going to take? And to actually get back to that, my diagnosis was that the tumor on the side of my breast was stage 1, which meant that it was all encapsulated. The tumor that was growing in the ducts was invasive ductal carcinoma, is what they call it, and that meant that it had spread out, so it was actually at stage 2. So those were my 2 parameters that I was
So the surgeons were very concerned with what was taking place.
Yes, because they had sent me for an MRI also, and found like a different kind of shadow on the left breast. So their diagnosis for me was radical mastectomy, double mastectomy.
Okay.
Was what they thought that I was going to have.
I want to hear more about the phone call from the surgeon, and this was on your...
At home, yeah. She called me at home, and she was very concerned about it, and she said, I know that you want to go a different route. I understand that, but you're endangering your life, and if you really feel that you want to do this, I want you to stay in contact with me, because I just have bad feelings about this. You're not going to be able to clear this. It's just not what's done. You need the surgery. You need to come in here and have the surgery. So at that point, I thought it was nice for her to call me, but I really was not in that mode at all. I had made my choice and my decision, and I knew that it was going to be difficult to follow through, because I knew there were going to be a lot of pressure. So I also chose a very different road, and some of that's come back to bite me a little bit.
Also, you felt there was going to be a lot of pressure with family.
And that's where I was going with that. I decided that I would just tell my husband, and I had asked him to keep it to himself. So the people that knew about it were the people I was working with in the oil company. The people that knew about it were the people that I was working with here at Beyond, and my husband knew about it, and I did not tell my family. The reason I didn't tell my family is because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to look at the fear in their eyes consistently, and I know that that's the response that's elicited as soon as you say that you have cancer and that you're not going to have surgery, you're not going to have chemo, you're not going to have radiation. But that was the choice that I made, and I wanted no pressure. I wanted to be in a space where I did not have pressure. I knew that I had a family history. I knew that that's why I was so afraid. Also, being 18 and having somebody tell you that this could come up in your life adds to the fears. It was as if I had manifested my worst nightmare. As I was talking to some light workers, to my medical intuitive, the beginnings, they felt like I had manifested it myself at that particular point in time, because I so desperately wanted to take it from my mother. So it was my attempt to take it from my mother, and I guess as I look back on it, that's very possibly what I had done. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have manifested at a later time, etc. But I think that was the beginning of it there for me.
But you also had a belief system too that it was already in the family.
Yes,
fear
definitely.
that it was also going to come down the line with you, which It did, either, however it happened.
Well, and that was it. I mean, my family always talked about it because there was cancer in the family. My one aunt died when she was very young. Two of my other aunts had breast cancer also. So, you know, out of my mom's family, of seven sisters. She was one of 7 sisters. Four of them had breast cancer. Her brother had a different type of cancer. I believe my grandfather had cancer also, and then my mother's mother, having died when she was 6 of cancer, was a big issue.
So now you've walked into the world of the light worker, and this is something new to you.
Completely.
You know, completely new. How was that feeling? And was there skepticism? What did you feel stepping into the world of the light workers?
Well, when I first came in, I was like in a constant state of fear. I was just, am I making the right choice, etc. Part of the questions that I had asked the doctor was, you know, how quickly did she anticipate this was going to grow? You know, I mean, did I have 6 months, did I have a year to work with this before it would double in size, say, because I knew that it was very small. I knew I was talking about a very small lump. And for me, that gave me a little bit of a feeling of safety. I had a little bit of a safety net. I didn't feel like if I didn't do this, I was going to die within a month.
Almost like you could monitor along the way.
Yes. You know, I could feel if it grew, or I would be able to make changes.
Now you came in with some fears. Did the light workers ease the fears for you at all?
Yes, and I came in with strong religious beliefs too. So as I was trying to wrap my mind around this, my thoughts going through it were always, God would have never put me on this path if I didn't have the time to make changes and to actually work with this. So I kept that in my mind, and that bolstered my belief system in being able to cure it. I had seen so much with chemo and radiation. I had seen so many people get sick. That's what you hear, and that's what people talk about all the time. The chemo made me sick. My beautician had gone through breast cancer, and she went through the chemo, and it was loss of hair, it was nausea, nothing tasted good, vomiting. I had seen some of my husband's family also go through cancer. I saw his aunt when she went through cancer, and it's that same process. It's that feeling so ill. I can honestly say I never felt ill. I never had any pain. So for me, that was a very good part of it.
With the light workers.
Yes, I was never ill. I never had pain. I didn't have nausea. I didn't have vomiting. In the process, I used my essential oil protocols. I did use essential oils internally. I know that there's controversy about that. I don't have any qualms about that either. For me, that's very natural. I use them topically. I use them internally, and
you had guidance.
I had guidance with that too for my protocol, so that worked very well for me. And I kept in touch with my upline, and we would change protocols as were needed. We had like a monthly conference call. And then coming in, I continued my journey here. Once a week I would come in for a session. And as I did, I felt strengthening in my body. At that time too, I followed anti-cancer protocol diet with the essential oil company. So I mean, I made some radical changes in my lifestyle. It was very difficult keeping things to myself, and that's been a difficult part of the journey because my family wasn't aware of it. I knew that there were going to be hurt feelings, but I also knew that I couldn't handle that portion of the journey.
Right.
So for me, being able to have the energy work release the emotions, the core emotions from my body, was a beautiful experience. I was able to come in, I was able to have my session, I felt better after my sessions. The more sessions I had, of course, the better I began to feel.
And you started to see changes.
Yes.
And so now what's happened with the cancer?
So when I finally got enough nerve up to go in and have a mammogram, because that was another one of my major problems there, I really didn't feel that I wanted to introduce more radiation into my body by going in for a mammogram. So I had tried different avenues. I tried different hospital affiliations. What I was trying to do was have them do an MRI rather than do a mammogram, because I was more comfortable with that. They always said that they could get better pictures. They usually don't do that until they do a mammogram. I just did not want to induce any more radiation into my body. So I battled that for quite a long time, and finally in 2011, I got the nerve up. So after 2.5 years, I got the nerve and the confidence up to go in and have the mammogram taken. And when I did, the mammogram came back clear. They couldn't find any cancer. So I am diagnosed as cancer free.
Okay.
In the process of this journey, also prior to my actually going in for the mammogram, I went through the Sacred Journey Institute classes so that I could become a light worker. It felt like I needed to give back because I had gotten so much. For me, a big part of this journey was going into gratitude. I switched gears from fighting cancer to trying to understand what I needed to learn from it, to take it as a learning lesson. Yeah. That there was something, there was a reason that I was diagnosed with the cancer. There was a reason for me to learn how to move it through my body. There was a reason for me to be involved in this. I felt very confident that I wouldn't have been placed on this path if I could not have cleared it.
So there was not only a battle with cancer that went on, but there was also a fear of judgment with your own decisions on how to battle this cancer, which is something that plays out in the public huge, big time. Now you have actually gone through the Sacred Journey Institute, all the levels, and become a light worker yourself. How do you feel now about spreading the word of what just took place with you, or opening people up to new possibilities?
Well, for me, I understand the fear, and I definitely know the intensity of that fear. You know, you're going into it. When somebody says cancer to you, it's like a wall that comes up. In deep-seated fear, yes. And whether it's just a matter of stage 1, stage 0, stage 2, it really doesn't matter. The word itself elicits that response in your body, and most people believe in doctors, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't believe in doctors by any stretch of the imagination. I just felt that there was a better way to go, and that if I had the opportunity to do it, that's what I was going to do it. I used to say when I first got involved in the oil company that if I was ever diagnosed with that, I'd be in Guy Qual, and then I decided that I really couldn't up and leave my family and go to Guy Qual to get treatment there, and I would do what I could here. That was always, I always had that as a backup and a game plan too, because in Guy Qual they actually have found a way to put the oils into an IV and induce them directly into the system, which allows them to work better. So I might have had a faster response. I also knew that I needed time, and my body needed time, and I don't know how to explain that exactly to people. But my body didn't store all of this in just a matter of a month or 2 months. It was an ongoing thing. It was something over a long period of time that had made the changes in my body, and I had to allow my body to change slowly. So I had to give myself the time to heal, and I think that's an important thing too. Anytime you deal with natural or alternative medicine, you're dealing with something that usually takes a little bit of time. It's not an automatic, immediate response. It's not like you're going to get on the table one day, get a session, and you're done. It's a continuing process, and you have to work through things. And for me, it was working through the emotional part of it. I had to go into myself. I had to go deep into myself. I had to find out what I was holding, where I was holding it, and release it. The beauty of this work is I didn't have to identify necessarily the emotions that I was feeling. I just needed to push them through your body. So my belief system is that we create disease within our body by storing emotions in our body. I can feel now if I'm not in my center, if I'm not grounded there, if I'm not in my heart space, I can feel things actually beginning to store in my body. And I know that my breasts are an area that will tend to collect that energy, and I can actually feel it happening.
Almost like it's a vulnerable area for you.
Yes.
You feel that physically.
I feel it physically now, so I can actually feel it. So, and that to me, I mean, I look at that as such a gift, because if I can feel it, then I know that I have the capacity to store it again, and I'm not going there. So I'm able to do
Another
it.
thing that I'm enjoying right here is Irene talking about cancer with a smile on her face. And when we started this, it was you had this concern on your face, and now there's this smile on her face. And one thing I also see with Irene is she's come through the Sacred Journey Institute program now, and she's gone through all 10 levels. And there's a part of her that is excited. I feel this excitement with working with people with light work that maybe have the same experience that Irene started with cancer. And not only working with light work, but incorporating pure essential oils from Young Living and working with people with diets and encouraging them in a positive way and almost taking that concern and that word battle into this really exciting journey that you went through. And sometimes I think that the journey that you went through was to prepare you for this.
I feel that way too. I feel that way too. I was coming through the program also, one of my fellow classmates was diagnosed with cancer. And she decided that she was going to follow the medical model. And I can tell you that I kept saying to myself, I'm so glad I didn't involve my family. I'm so glad I didn't involve my family. There were many times in speaking to her that she would have preferred just working with the light work and not having gone through the medical model. But she felt pressured by her family to the point where she even did some experimental chemotherapy because she was at a point where they didn't have any more options for her, and she got into a program with the experimental stuff, and she has transitioned now. But that was a very tough battle for me to watch because I had chosen something different, and I've had many people say to me, you know, oh, I could never do that, and you know, how could you be so brave? And to me, I felt that I wasn't being brave by following this path. It was the other that scared me. I didn't want to have chemotherapy. I didn't want to have radiation. I didn't want to have a mastectomy. I didn't want to have any of those things. And pretty much that's where the medical model was going to lead me. That had always been a great fear of mine. So I will say I manifested my greatest fear and lived in it for a while. And finally determined.
Also, even with that greatest fear, I feel like with you, there was a belief system with this model for you that really helped you move through this.
I knew from talking to people in the oil company that there was a different way I could go. So to start out with, I had a belief system that I could do that.
And the oil company actually guiding you towards light workers.
Right. That was my my upline said that I needed to go to a light worker. So I believe that she could feel that, you know, I had so much stuff stored in my emotional body. I had to release it from there. Many people have a return of cancer that go through the medical model. I'm not. I have no mindset for that. I don't believe that I will attract that back to myself. I believe that I know how to release it. If anything is beginning to be stored, I know how to release it. I know to call, make an appointment, get myself worked on.
So you're still working with the light workers as a preventative or as a health program in general?
We always need to do our own self-work. And if we're going to be light workers, we definitely need to do our own self-work.
And also realizing the emotional core that constantly needs to be worked on.
Right, and the different things come up. We all have our own triggers. Sometimes when we think we've eliminated a trigger, it comes back again. You know, we'll say, "Hey, I thought I got rid of that," but something else has triggered us, or the situation triggered us again. The beauty of going through this work is being able to recognize it, so that it can be released without having an effect on your body.
So for you, being in that position years ago when you went into the fear with the diagnosis on Halloween, if you were to be sitting in front of somebody right now that could be 4th stage cancer or 2nd stage cancer, but in that same fear position that you were in, and you would look at this person, what would be the advice that you would give them?
I would tell them to consider all of their options. If in fact this person believes that the medical model is going to help them, and they want to do the medical model, by all means do the medical model. But then come in, get light work done, work on your emotional body. With the essential oils, I have things that can strengthen the body. Because if you have to go through chemo, if you have to go through radiation, you're going to be damaging your body. You're putting poison, right. You want to get that immune system built up. That can be done both ways. It can be done both with cranial. It can also be done with oils. With Ninja, which is a wolfberry product that's very high in antioxidants. That'll help bolster the immune system. We have many other products there too. Too lengthy to go through here, but there's many things that we can do to assist cancer patients, even if they have gone through chemo and radiation. So it's not that I would tell somebody that they shouldn't do that.
Right.
And if they believe that the medical model is going to help them, it might. I also have a belief system of my own that your body will get to a point where you can't bring it back. I really believe that. I mean, you can have cancer in your body, you can reverse cancer, but if you get to the point where it's already damaged most of your internal organs, bringing your body back from that may not be possible. But the light work will help.
So essentially what you would tell somebody would be important to educate yourself to all possibilities.
Yes.
Open their mind to new possibilities, and that your belief system is very powerful.
Definitely, definitely. And for me, it was a matter of surrendering in, stopping the, I have to fight this, and trying to determine what I needed to learn from it. And I needed to learn that I could release this. I needed to learn that I manifested it. I needed to learn a whole bunch of things. I needed to come in gratitude for it. And that was very difficult for me too. I think that was a very big key for me. To be able to sit and say, thank you. Now, could I know why? You know, why did I manifest this? What do I need to go through for it? And to look back on it for me.
So instead of battling it, it was more embracing it.
Yes.
And going to the core. What message is this giving me?
And which now is how I look at basically everything.
Yeah.
If something triggers me, okay, what lesson do I need to learn from this? Knowing that all the emotions that play out through me are playing out through me and are not actually coming from somebody else. That's another big lesson for me, was it, because you get into, I think it's a natural human feeling to blame other people. You know, they're making me angry.
Right.
Yeah, this guy's really making me, well, that's not it. What's here, what's being triggered within myself? That's creating the anger, resentment, hostility, all of those things that build within your bodies.
Yeah. So, of course, I remember Irene walking in here in her struggle and working with her struggle, but also in the recent years watching Irene come through the Sacred Journey Institute and go into her power as a light worker, and she's become what was a patient at one time has become one of the most